There are final steps to the scientific method. You have to analyze and interpret the data, and then share it and report it to the larger world. You have to show people that your experiment was not just random chance. Intellectual honesty requires acknowledging that the world's a complicated place and random things happen. So you have to eliminate that possibility. Maybe you just picked students who are bad at taking tests, even if there's a band around. Or maybe you picked plants that were just going to grow tall. Or maybe you picked people who were just prone to get heart attacks. So you have to eliminate chance. Scientists have to maintain objectivity. They have to eliminate their personal desires and opinions from the interpretation of the results of experiments. Those opinions obscure the truth. During these steps of the scientific method, we ask if the results support the if-then statements of the hypothesis. And if not, the hypothesis would have to change. And then at the very end, scientists go through a rigorous process of precisely publishing what they did and how they did it, and how they understand what it means for others to read. There are some scientists who work at one step above this. They analyze many, many separate experiments, and they find connections across many different parts of the world, because not everybody across the world understands what everyone else is doing, and some scientists work at a higher level to make those connections. Also, at the interpretation of data and what your experiments mean, it can get political. Money can get involved. Commercial interests show up. For example, are eggs good for you or bad for you? You could find scientific studies showing both of those things. Some things have not been clearly determined. Other things about the communication and peer review part of the scientific method. The evaluation by other experts helps ensure that we have an honest intellectual discussion. It's also part of how scientists are paid. Who deserves to have money to find answers to the questions? It also helps us that we can verify experiments in other parts of the world. If the scientist said, I used this chemical and this is the result, in other parts of the world, they can verify that by using the same chemical and saying, yep, it works over here too. It keeps everybody honest and keeps the science with high quality. Remember, science is a human endeavor, and some of the changes in science take time, convincing, and persuasion. For example, hand washing was shown to help cure diseases and prevent diseases in the 1800s, but some of the more senior scientists at that time were not convinced, and it took many years before everyone, was shown experiments and say, look, this works, here's how it works. And people would argue, and things took time till they became agreed on. Next, we have some experimental design in medicine. Sample size is needed to show that it's not chance, so we need many people to participate in experiments. The control group and the experimental or treatment group receive the same treatment except for the variable being tested. This prevents what are called psychosomatic effects. Psychosomatic means the way your attitude or mindset might influence subtle choices you make that impact your health. If you think you're getting a new medicine, you get excited, and you might do subtle things that improve your physical condition. And so a device called a placebo is used in the control group. Some people get what are called sugar pills. They look like medicine, but they're not really medicine. This helps eliminate the psychosomatic effect. The people are not actually getting specific medicine, but if they get better, that's evidence that it wasn't the medicine. It was their attitude and subtle behaviors they were doing because they thought they were getting medicine. Experimenter bias is the unfair opinion of the experimenter. And so to prevent that, a double-blind study is an event when the people giving the medicine to people in the experiment don't know who's getting the new medicine and who's getting placebos or traditional standard medicine. This prevents the experimenter from subtly giving away which medicine and which treatment is the new one. This has been done in other fields. Telling teacher that some students are honor students causes those teachers to have a bias. And the teachers will treat those honor students better and cut them breaks and give them higher grades, even though they didn't have a measurable advantage. That's a bias. Beyond that, statistical testing ensures the difference between groups was not random, but was due to a specific variable. Here's another example how this applies. For treating sick people, the control group gets the current best practice. And some of them might, let me see there, how do I put this? Then the experimental group gets the experimental treatment. To not give sick people any treatment would be unethical. So everybody gets something. But when they're doing trials for medicine where people are sick already, they give everybody some form of treatment. With enough experimental and repeated evidence, we get the formation of a theory. That's not a casual term, not like an opinion. Scientific theories change. They can be modified. Over time, theories are tested, questioned, and refined. Remember, in science, all truth is tentative. It is only true for now. Beyond that, some of the theories that have the most data and evidence supporting them, and that can be expressed in mathematical terms, can be called a scientific law. The law of gravity can be expressed mathematically. Other things have lots of evidence for them, but they're still only called theories. For example, the germ theory of disease, or the cell theory. There's lots and lots of evidence for them, but just because it's a theory doesn't make it somehow less supported than a law. Laws just have math behind them. There are limits to the scientific method. Science is limited to testable phenomenon. If something cannot be seen or heard or tested in any way, it does not fall within the realm of science. Science is not equipped to handle opinions or desires. If nothing could prove something wrong, then it's not a scientific belief. If there's no thought experiment that could be done to say, well, this would show that gravity is not true, it's not scientific. For example, with gravity, you could say, what if the Earth and the solar system has only been in one small part of the galaxy for the whole time we've been humans? What if we float into a new part of the galaxy and gravity works differently? If planes don't fly the same way? Then people will say we'd have to change the law of gravity. That's true. That's how science works. Many scientific discoveries are made accidentally. This is another point, but we verify them through experiments. Happy accidents can be called serendipity. When a scientist says, that's strange, when things don't go expected, sometimes there's incredible discoveries that can be made. For example, the man in the picture, Alexander Fleming, discovered penicillin's medical value because he left out dirty dishes while he went on vacation from his laboratory. The mold that grew on those dishes included penicillin, and that mold killed diseases. we can talk about experiments in the real world. Now, real scientists are funded and paid to determine things we don't know about, truths that remain elusive, such as cures for disease. You can contrast that with the laboratory activities done by novices or people just learning at schools. These experiments are done to learn a technique that could be later used for real science. These are experiments where the results are already known. They're done for learning purposes. We can also learn about different kinds of science, such as applied versus pure science. Applied research involves solving specific problems. It's practical. We want a car to be more fuel efficient. We want faster internet. There are commercial applications that apply for businesses to provide goods and services and procedures and products that people want to make their lives better. On the other hand, pure research is different. Pure research is not trying to solve a specific problem. Pure research, sometimes called fundamental research, expands the limits of knowledge. It's driven more purely by curiosity, not for money. It increases our understanding of fundamental things. The objectives in it might be uncertain. This might be a scientist who's just curious and he wonders something like, hey, what kind of crabs grow in the ocean? Who's studying these crabs? Does anybody, I'm going to go under the water and watch a coral reef and see what happens there. Both of these can impact each other. Sometimes pure research leads to astounding new technologies. And sometimes new technologies can lead to an increased understanding of the basics of how things work. So there's a give and take between those things. Much more research in the world is applied because there's money involved in it. However, the biggest and best organizations, whether that's governments or companies, also fund some pure research because the breakthroughs that come from it can be incredibly valuable and world-changing. So this was lab number 1, where we learned about the scientific method. Thank you for watching. I hope it helps. Goodbye.